All right, there's our witch. I hope you liked the video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see future videos like these. Thanks for watching. Okay guys, for the witch gnome, that's going to be in the description below with the pattern. I'm going to list all the supplies that we're going to use. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to take our little ornament, we're going to cut our little tab off of it, and we're going to glue it to our pool noodle. Then we're going to wrap our fabric all the way around the noodle. Don't go all the way down one side because we need it to tuck it in on the bottom. So just go for the length of the noodle, which is 4.5 inches. And we're just going to glue that all the way around, mainly to the ornament, so it doesn't melt the noodle. And if you just case it in here real good, it just holds everything together really well. Then go ahead and glue down one side, but not all the way down. Leave that gap at the bottom. Then we're going to make the little vest. We're just going to hem up one side and the other side on the short sides only. Then we're going to attach it to the noodle, and we're just going to attach it, tag it to the back until we finish putting the front on. Just make sure that you are on the seam on the back. You're matching the seams, because you don't want the seam to be down the middle of your little guy. Okay, then we're going to take that, we're going to fold these two pieces back, and we're going to mark on the inside of those, and that's where we're going to be attaching our ribbon. So mark it, and then we're going to go ahead and cut our ribbon. I don't know exactly what size it is, but it goes from one side of the dot to the other side of the dot. So you're going to go on a diagonal, gluing to the little dots that you just drew, and then we're going to go parallel on the lines below it. So you're going to spot glue right there at that little dot that you drew, and then go across. And then the same thing on the opposite side. Spot glue at that little dot, and then go across. And then you can just keep all your other ribbons parallel to that and kind of evenly spaced. And we're going to add 3 sets of these. And if you go below where the skirt attaches to, that's okay, because the skirt's going to cover it up anyway. And I did go below where the skirt goes. Okay, then we're going to actually attach the black part to the top of the shirt, so that all you see are those little crosses in the middle. So just glue down one side, just roll it to it, and then do the same thing for the opposite side. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and attach our little petticoat. And I got 4 layers there, and they are 3.5 inches by 36 inches. You go ahead and overlap them to make a complete circle. And then we're going to take our thread, and we're just going to go in and out all the way around, because we're going to gather that up. And it was easier to go ahead and leave the pins in there with 4 layers so it stayed together. Okay, once you got it all the way gathered, go ahead and attach it to your noodle. Keep your thread on there. Get the line in the back, and then just sew that right up there to the fabric. And then just tie that off into a knot. And then we're going to go in, and we are going to glue it all the way around to the noodle. Just go right underneath the edge and glue it down. And you don't have to add a lot of glue, because you don't want it coming through all that netting. But all that's going to get covered up here in a minute. Then I went ahead and took some ribbon, and we're just going to finish that out. That way it'll hold it to the noodle a little bit better, and then it won't get all tangled up when you actually add your skirt. And go all the way around and get that ribbon on there, and then just cut it off at the back. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and make our skirt, and we're going to take our sides and fold them over on top of each other to make a complete circle, and we're going to do that with 2 of them because we are going to have a lined skirt. Okay, then with facing sides together, we are going to glue that all the way around. And just try to get as close to the edge as you can. We probably if you can sew it, that would be great. It would be a 1/4 inch seam. But go ahead and just glue it about a 1/4 inch, like a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. And then when I got done putting mine together and when I turned it right side out, I went and I took it to the ironing board and I ironed the seam flat. And don't do it on steam or anything like that, but when you do add the heat to it, it does kind of melt the glue a little bit, and it does make, if you have any clumps, it does even them out. But just after you iron it, let it cool really well before you start messing with it. Okay, once you get all that glued in, then we're going to turn it right side out. And then I'm going to take a bone folder that I use for my paper crafting just to kind of smooth out the circle. And just stick it in there and just kind of smooth it out all the way so that those seams get all the way opened up all the way to the edge. And then I ironed it. Okay, after I ironed it, then I went ahead and I'm putting it back over top of the body again. Come on down to just to where the ribbon is, because we're going to attach another ribbon, and we're going to glue that down all the way around as well. So just make sure that's glued in really well, but you want to be above the petticoat. And then I'm taking a ribbon and I'm going to go around, and then I'm going to actually tie it off into a bow in the back. And that'll help hold that skirt to that bodice as well. And then just go ahead and tie that off into a bow. And then we're going to trim the little edges off into like a diagonal. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and build the arms, and we're going to cut a piece of wood 1.5 inches. Actually cut it at 1 inch because you don't need a whole 1.5 inches, because I had trouble when I'm sticking into the noodle. They were touching each other. So I'm cutting my arms at 3.5 inches. You're going to leave the wire in there. You're going to cut off both ends though. And then I'm taking this little miter cutter to cut my wood. This is a real handy little tool here. Okay, then I'm going to put my stick down into my noodle and try to put about halfway in. So what you probably need really is just 1 inch, and you can have 1/2 inch out and 1/2 inch in. And that way when you stick it into the pool noodle, they're not touching each other. But go ahead and glue them in. Make sure they're in there real good. And then on the other end, we're going to attach his hands. And if you want to know how to make the hands, there's a video at the very, very end showing how I made the hands. Okay, then stick that wire back in there and trim it off flush. And then we're going to glue it in, and we're going to glue our hands in there. All right, now we're going to go ahead and build the arms. We're going to go ahead and hem up one short side and then one of the long sides. And we're going to attach our arm in there, and we're going to just roll it up. And then in a minute, we're going to make a little puffy sleeve at the top. And that'll help cover up where you're sticking it into the noodle too. Okay, just go ahead and lay your arm on there, and go ahead and make sure that the arm part is in there good. So really you're just going to have just some of the hands sticking out. And then do exactly the same thing for the opposite one. But I'm going to go ahead and attach some ribbon to the bottom to kind of make a little cuff. And just glue that in. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make the little puffy sleeve. We're going to hem up both of the long sides. And then we're going to hem up one of the short sides and we're going to fold it over. So go ahead and fold that over and then glue that on down to the top of that, making a little casing. And do exactly the same thing for the other one. And then we are going to sew a casing on the top and the bottom of that so that we can gather that up around the arm. So just take your needle and thread and you're going to go on both ends. So you're going to do this on this end and the other end. And then just leave your thread open so that you can tie it off when you get it on the arm. Okay, and then take both of your arms and just bend them right at a 90, right there at the top of where the blue is. And we're going to go ahead and cut into our noodle, and we're going to come down just on the lattice part on the top 2 X's that you have. Line it up with the bottom of the X. So right at the bottom, and then just go ahead and poke a hole in there. And then I'm using pliers to open it up a little bit bigger because we're going to stick that whole arm down into there. And then just go ahead and push it all the way in there. And this is why I'm telling you, you need a shorter dowel pin, because when I put the second one in, they touched. I mean, I had to move one up a little bit. Go ahead and add the glue, and then go ahead and glue it in. And then do the same thing for both sides. And if you wanted to add the sleeves before you put this together, it probably would have been a little bit easier, but I waited until I had it on here. But I think if I were to do it again, I'd have gone ahead and put the sleeve on the arm when I had it off of the body. Just go ahead and slide it all the way up to the top and pull that snug, and then just come over the top part and tie it up. And you can actually go up over the top part of the arm to tie it up instead of under it. But I'd go ahead and attach it when they're off the body. Just kind of even it out a little bit so it's gathered evenly. And tie that off and clip that off. And then on the second one, we're going to push that up the arm a little bit to give it some fullness in the sleeve. And then don't worry so much about having to tie it up so good as far as where your thread is, because we're going to come back in and we're going to put a ribbon around there to kind of dress it up a little bit. So pull it up, and then you can just come right over the top part and tie it off. Just get it pretty puffy. And do the same thing for the other side as well. And then we're going to come back in with a ribbon and then just put that around the edge. That way it hides our stitches and it dresses it up a little bit. And then do that for both of them. All right, then we're going to go ahead and glue the arm at the top part onto the body so that it doesn't come off of there and you don't see where that little noodle is. And do that for both sides. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and build the legs. We're going to cut the legs at 3.5 inches each. And go ahead and take your wires out. And we're going to add a dowel rod. Even them off, and then when you get both of them out together, put them side by side, make sure they're both the same length, because you want to make sure your legs are the same length. And then go ahead and add your stick, push it all the way down to the bottom. And then we're going to go ahead and put them up into the noodle. And we're just going to kind of evenly space them in the middle on both sides, but spread them farther apart on the legs as far as you can, and it'll help make them stand up a little easier. Then we're going to go ahead and take our fabric, poke a hole in it where you just poke that hole through the noodle so you know where that is, and then we're going to tuck all that down inside of the noodle and glue it in. Just make sure you have your holes open so that you know exactly where your dowel rod's going to go through it. Okay, then I'm going to add a little bit of glue inside there. And then I actually went back in and added a little glue in the center too, just to kind of hold it in a little bit better. So before you stick that all the way down into that hole, make sure you glue it in. Okay, on the legs, we're going to glue down both the short side on both sides. And then we're going to glue down the long side on one side. And we're going to do just like we did the sleeves. We're going to fold it over and then glue that over to make like a little tube. And these are going to be the little bloomer pants. And do that for both of them. Both on the short side and then one on the long side. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and attach it to our leg. Just push it all the way up in there. And then we're going to add glue around the very top part just to hold it in. That way when we push it up into the noodle, you won't see any of that orange noodle. All right, we're going to go ahead and put those aside and let them dry, and then we're going to start building the shoes. And I'm just going to show you how to do one shoe, and then you do the other one just like it. These are those weights that they use for the Pinewood Derby, and I just put a bunch of them in there. It really helps to weight him down, or her down. And I put 3 of them in each. And they have adhesive backing, so you really don't have to glue them in. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and attach the back part of the shoe. The fabric for the back part. Go all the way around, get it glued in there good, and then we're going to put the toe over the top of it. And I know this is kind of a long video, but there was a lot of steps to make this one. Okay, then take the toe, find your center, put a little dab of glue on there, and then put it on there. And then you want to let it dry really good before you start pulling it around there, because it will stretch and smooth out good, but you need to let it dry good. And you're just going to go ahead and stretch that on down, and then you're going to get a little buckling in there, but it's going to be covered up by the little strip. So, and then do the same thing on both sides. Just get it glued in there good, pull it down as far as you can. Smoothing it out as you're going. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and add a sole to it. And that's what's going to hold those magnets in really good in case they do come undone. Just put glue all the way around the bottom and then attach your little sole to it. Then we're going to come back and we're going to put a little strip of fabric around it just to make sure it's trimmed out nicely. So find your center point and then just start stretching that around. And then that'll help seal up the bottom too. It'll give it a nice finish. Okay, trim that part off and then glue it down, and then just go ahead and stretch that other piece all the way around it till it's put in there tight. But stretch it so it does hold on there good. Okay, then we're going to go back and we're going to attach a piece of lace to those as well, like we did the arms. Just all the way around the top on both of them. And you don't have to do all these steps. You can skip this if you want to, but I just thought it kind of added a little bit to it. Okay, now we're going to go back in and we're going to attach the legs to the body. So we're just going to put some glue in there and attach those legs. And then we're going to attach the shoes to the legs. Just put some glue in the center there. Glue them in. And then do the same thing for the other side. Now the noodle that I used did not fill the shoe up completely. So I'm going to go back and show you. I took some craft foam. And I'm going to fill it into the back of the shoe just to kind of make that shoe a lot tighter. So just cut you some craft foam and then just put it into the heel area. Just shove it on in there and to tighten up those shoes a little bit better. Gives it a little bit more stability. All right, now we're going to go ahead and build the hat. And you take some time on this part because you want to make sure that you get it glued good. It is a little bit stiff, but just start at the bottom, just go up a little bit, let that dry really good, but make sure that your lines are straight. So make sure that you do have overlapping, and don't worry about getting a little bit of glue on the outside because we're going to come back in and we are going to paint this entire hat. I think that the craft foam in black is just a little bit faded out looking, so I am going to come back in with a Krylon matte black and paint the whole entire hat. Then we're going to go ahead and add a strip around the bottom. That's a 1/4 inch strip. I don't have the exact length of it, but I just cut off a strip off the probably 12 inches, and you're going to have to trim it up. So it's just a 1/4 inch strip, and that's just going to hold the brim onto the hat a little bit easier and not show a lot of glue. And just trim off the excess and then put the bill over the top of it. Push it on down and then figure out exactly how much you need to trim it to see how tight you made your hat. Maybe you made it a little bit tighter. You're just going to do little snippets and start small at first just to open it up to get it all the way down to the bottom. Once you get it all the way down the bottom, we're going to take another strip and put it around the top. And that's what's going to hold that brim onto that hat without having to use a lot of glue. And then we're going to take a cork and add it to a stiff piece of wire to put up into the hat so that we can bend that hat. So I'm just taking my little tool again, cutting a piece of cork, and we're going to put our wire on both ends of that, and that way it won't poke through your craft foam. And you don't have to use quite as big of a piece of cork that I use. You can use something smaller, or you can even just use some craft foam to cover that up. You just want to make sure that your wire does not poke through your hat. Okay, and then we're just going to slide that into the hat and we are going to glue it in. Just make sure it fits in there. And then we are going to put glue on the top, glue it in, push it in there really good. Then we're going to put glue on the bottom. And it did help to have a little bit bigger piece of cork on the bottom because it helped the hat stay in better. And I used it to glue the hat onto the gnome itself. So just glue that on. And then we're going to take it and we're just going to bend it. And you can bend it however you want to, or you can leave it straight. It doesn't matter. I just wanted a little bit of a crook on it. Then I used the matte black Krylon and I sprayed the inside and the outside. So make sure you spray the inside too. Okay, then I'm just taking some netting and I'm just going to attach it to the hat just to give it a little decor. You can add whatever kind of decor you want to. I just used some netting to put it on there with. Then I took another piece of netting and I just twirled it to put around the brim of the hat. And then I just came back in there and I just kind of spot glued it in, just a couple little places on the front and then both sides and then in the back. Just don't use too much glue because you don't want it coming through the netting. So just a little bit of glue went a long way. Just spot glue it in and just hold it till it dries really good. And then we're going to put all the rest, we're going to put a ribbon on the back, the one we just made earlier. And then I'm going to take some netting. I'm using the 6-inch netting on the roll. And I'm just going to take it and roll it around my hand a few times. And then I'm going to tie it off in the center with a ribbon. And then I'm going to fan it open to kind of make a little, like a flower. Open it up like that, just fan it out. And then I'm going to attach that to the back of the hat. All right, then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to add a big old spider to the hat too. Just glue that in. And then we're going to attach a spider to the side. And then we're going to go ahead and do the pigtails. I cut the pigtails at 1 1/4 by 3 3/4, and then the bangs at 3/4 by 2 inch. And just cut where the hair flows downward. Then tie a bow around it to give it a little pigtail look. And then we're going to attach it to the opposite sides, on both sides of where our lattice is in the middle. So on the black part, and we're going to attach it to the noodle, to the ornament itself, not onto the body. And do the same thing for both sides. Then I'm going to take the bangs, I'm going to put those in the middle, and I'm just going to comb them out one way and then just a little bit on the edge to kind of blend it in. And then I'm just going to glue that in. And then I came back and I put a little bit extra glue underneath just to hold it in good to the body itself. And then I'm going to attach the nose right below the hair. And then we're going to go ahead and attach the hat. I'm just taking glue and putting it on the front part of the ornament, and I also got it on that cork that was in there. And then just hold it down like that. And then I went ahead and made the hands. I'm rolling these out into little bitty balls. It's probably a 1/2-inch ball. Roll it out, and then you're going to pinch one end in the center and the other end the other way. Then take your little pea-size clay and glue that in, or push it in there, and that makes the thumb. Then we're going to come back in and we're going to cut 4 slits or 3 slits for the 4 fingers, and just roll them in your fingers. Just roll those in your fingers and they will roll straight out. Just keep rolling them till you get into the length that you want. Then I'm taking the stylus and I'm just going to push a hole down in the top part of to make the fingernails. And then I'm taking that stylus and kind of spreading the fingers out a little bit to kind of smooth them out. And then I'm going to take a broom that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to wrap the hand around it to form it. Then I'm going to add a couple pieces of wire to it, and then I'm going to bake them. And I'm going to bake them, I had to bake them for 15 minutes at 250 degrees. All right, there you have it, a cute little gnome witch. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see future videos, hit subscribe. And if you want to be notified when I have another video, hit the bell. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.